Hello. How are you guys? Let's make sure that's all working. Yep. This is going to be a little bit different of a stream than we've kind of done. I'm very excited. No costume today because today is just the spooky day. I can't put on a witch hat though if we feel like I need a costume for today. So, let's see. This is going to be a little bit different. So first off, this is going to be a little bit shorter of a stream than usual because I do have something I need to get to tonight. But I did want to read a few stories because I remember talking about this a while ago. And I really wanted to do this because I really, really like... I grew up with this book and I really, really love this book. And it's far too sunny out there for spooky times. So we are going to read a few stories from this. I'm not going to be able to interact with chat too much because I don't want to interrupt the story, but I'm going to have some spooky music playing in the background. I've got some candles lit. I recommend getting yourself some tea if it's nice and cozy where you are. And I do want to say right off the bat, there's not going to be any jump scares. All the stories, this book was made for kids. This was sold at Scholastic's book fair. So this isn't too scary, but I promise I'm not going to jump scare you. I'm not going to do any super loud noises on purpose, so don't worry. And on that note, oh my gosh, hello everybody. Hello, how are all of you? I'm so happy you're here. She's dressed up as Essie the e-girl. Thanks, Chloe. All right, so on that note, let's go ahead and turn on some of our spooky sounds and let's get ready. So, no problem, howdy. So this is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, a collection of folklore. Happy birthday to Christy, indeed. 17, a big year. Pioneers used to entertain themselves by telling scary stories. At night, they might gather in somebody's cabin or around a fire and see who could scare the others the most. Some girls and boys in my town used to do the same thing today. They'd get together at somebody's house and they'd turn out the lights and eat popcorn and scare one another half to death. Telling scary stories is something people have done for thousands of years. For most of us like being scared in that way. Since there isn't any danger, we think it is fun. There are a great many stories to tell. There are ghost stories, there are tales of witches, devils, boogeymen, zombies, and vampires. There are tales of monstrous creatures and of other dangers. There are even stories that make us laugh at all the scariness. Some of these tales are very old, and they are told around the world, and most have the same origins. They are based on things that people saw or heard or experienced, or thought they did. Many years ago, a young prince became famous for his scary story he started to tell, but did not finish. His name was Mamilius, and he was probably 9 or 10 years old. William Shakespeare told about him in The Winter's Tale. It was on a dark winter's day that his mother, the queen, asked him for a story. "A sad tale's best for winter," he said. "I have one of sprites and goblins." "Do your best to frighten me with your sprites," she said. "You're powerful at it." I shall tell it softly," he said. Yond crickets shall not hear it." And he began. There was a man dwelt in a churchyard. But that was as far as he got. For at that moment the king came in and arrested the queen and took her away. And soon after that, Mamilius died. No one knows how he would have finished his story. If you started it as he did, how would you tell it? Most scary stories, of course, are meant to be told. They are most certainly more scary that way. But how you tell them is important. As Mamilius knew, the best way is to speak softly so that your listeners lean forward to catch your words, and to speak slowly so that your voice sounds scary. And the best time to tell these stories is at night, in the dark and the gloom. It is easy for someone listening to imagine all sorts of strange and scary things. This story is called The Thing. Ted Martin and Sam Miller were good friends. They spent a lot of time together. On this particular night, they were sitting on a fence near the post office talking about one thing and another. There were a field of turnips across the road. Suddenly, they saw something crawl out of the field and stand up. It looked like a man, but in the dark it was hard to tell for sure. And then it was gone. But soon it appeared. It walked halfway across the road, and it turned around and went back into the field. Then it came out a third time and started towards them. By now, Ted and Sam were scared, but they started running. And when they finally stopped, they decided they were being foolish. They weren't sure what they had even been scared of. So they decided to go back and get a better look. Pretty soon, they saw it, for it was coming to meet them. It was wearing black pants, a white shirt, and black suspenders. Sam said, "I'm going to try to touch it. Then we'll know if it's real." He walked up to it and peered into its face. It had a bright, penetrating eye sunk deep into its head. It looked like a skeleton. Ted took one look and screamed, and again he and Sam ran away. But this time, the skeleton followed them. When they got to Ted's house, they stood in the doorway and watched it. It stayed out in the road for a while. Then, it disappeared. A year later, Ted got sick and died. Towards the end, Sam sat up with him every single night. The night Ted died, Sam said he looked just like the skeleton. Some of these are so silly. I love them. Oh, goodness. Also, I have the alarms turned very down. Let me know if they're still too loud compared to everything else. Thank you so much for the host, Diego. One time, a preacher went to see if he could put a haunt to rest at a house in his settlement. The house had been haunted for about 10 years. Several people had tried to stay there all night, but they always would get scared out by the haunt. So the preacher took his Bible and went to the house, went on in, built himself a good fire, and lit a lamp, and he sat there reading his Bible. Then, just before midnight, he heard something start up in the cellar, walking back and forth. Then it sounded like somebody was trying to scream and got choked off. Then there was a lot of thrashing around and struggling, and finally, everything got quiet. The old preacher took up his Bible again, but before he could start reading, he heard footsteps coming up the cellar stairs. He sat, watching the door to the cellar, and the footsteps kept coming closer and closer. He saw the doorknob turn, and when the door began to open, he jumped up and hollered, "What do you want?" The door shut back, easy-like, and there wasn't a sound. The preacher was trembling a little, but he finally opened the Bible and read a while. Then he got up and laid the book on a chair and went back to mending the fire. Then the haunt started walking again, and step, 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 up the cellar stairs. The old preacher sat, watching the door, saw the doorknob turn, and the door open. It looked like a young woman. He backed up and said, "Who are you? What do you want?" The haunt sort of swayed, like she didn't know what to do. Then she just faded. The old preacher waited, and when he didn't hear any more noises, he went over and shut the door. He was sweating and trembling all over, but he was a brave man, and he thought he'd be able to see it through. So he turned his chair to where he could just watch, and he sat down and waited. It wasn't long before he heard the haunt start up again. Slowly, step, 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 closer, closer, step, step, until it was right at the door. The preacher stood up and held his Bible out before him. Then the knob slowly turned, and the door opened wide. This time the preacher spoke, quiet-like, and he said, "In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, who are you, and what do you want?" The haunt came right across the room and straight to him, and took hold of his coat. It was a young woman about 20 years old. Her hair was torn and tangled, and the flesh was dropping off her face. He could see the bones and part of her teeth. She had no eyes, but there was a sort of blue light way in the back of her eyes, and she had no nose on her face. Then she started talking, and it sounded like her voice was coming and going like the wind blowing. She told how her lover had killed her for her money and buried her in the cellar. She said if the preacher would dig up her bones and bury her properly, that she could finally rest. Then she told him to take the end joint of her little finger from her left hand and lay it in the collection plate at her next church meeting, and he'd find out who had murdered her. And she said, "If you come back here once more after that, you'll hear my voice at midnight, and I'll tell you where my money is hidden, and you can give that to the church." The haunt sobbed like she was tired, and she sunk down towards the floor, and then she was gone. The preacher found her bones and buried them in the graveyard. The next Sunday, the preacher put a finger bone in the collection plate, and when a certain man happened to touch it, it stuck to his hand. The man jumped up and rubbed and scraped and tore at the bone, trying to get it off. Then he went to screaming, like he was going crazy. Well, he confessed to the murder, and they took him to jail. After the man was hung, the preacher went back to the house one midnight, and the haunt's voice told him to dig under the heath rock. He did, and he found a big sack of money. And where the haunt had held on to his coat, the print of those bony fingers was burned right into the cloth, and it never did come out. That was The Haunted House. Oh, you know what? Since Donnie is redeeming us a scary story, I'll go ahead and read this one too while we're at it. Scary story. There was once a small village in India who was known for a peculiar feature their bread had. See, they would make curry and bread all the time and enjoy it, but outsiders of the village thought the bread was sturdier than normal. Everyone loved the bread, and it was so cherished that it started to get used more widely in bartering token in their actual currency. One day, one of the villagers left their small home to travel to the big city. On his way, he shared this delicious bread with the travelers alike, all raved about his flavor and appeal. Blessed that everyone seemed to enjoy his bread, he went into the big city, ready to buy some trinkets to bring back home. He realized that he was running low on rupees after a while, so the last shop he visited, he attempted to pay for his goods by handing the shopkeeper a few small rounds of bread. The shopkeeper looked up and said, "You can't pay with bread. That's nonsense." Very spooky, Donnie. Thank you. Very spooky. Spooky indeed. Alright, let's see what's another one. This one is The Guests. A young man and his wife were on a trip to visit his mother. Usually they arrived in time for supper, but they had gotten a late start, and now it was getting dark. So they decided to look for a place to stay overnight and go on into the morning. Just off the road, they saw a small house in the woods. "Maybe they rent rooms," the wife said. So they stopped to ask. An elderly man and woman came to the door. They didn't rent rooms, they said, but they would be glad to have them stay overnight as their guests. They had plenty of room, and they would enjoy the company. The old woman made coffee and brought them some cake, and the four of them talked for a while. Then the young couple were taken to their rooms. They again explained that they wanted to pay for this, but the old man said he would not accept any money. The young couple got up early the next morning before their hosts had awakened. On the table near the front door, they left an envelope with some money in it for the room, and they went back to the next town. They stopped in a restaurant and had breakfast. When they told the owner where they had stayed for the night, he was shocked. "That can't be," he said. "The house burned to the ground, and the man and woman who lived there died in the fire." The young couple could not believe it. So they went back to the house. Only now there was no house at all. All they found was a burned-out shell. They stood, staring at the ruins, trying to understand what had happened. Then the woman screamed. In the rubble was a badly burned table, like the one they had seen by the front door, and on the table was an envelope that they had left that morning. Bum, bum, bum. Old woman is sus. Oh my gosh. I love how anti-scary some of these are. I actually have to avoid reading like half of them because half of them end with "now jump and scare your friend next to you," and I'm not going to do that to you guys because that seems absolutely ridiculous. Old woman was not an imposter. Oh, this one has a song to play. That's kind of neat. It's in the key of F. The Girl Who Stood on the Grave. Some boys and girls were at a party one night. There was a graveyard down the street, and they were talking about how scary it was. "Don't ever stand on the grave after dark," one of the boys said. "The person inside will grab you. He'll pull you under." "That's not true," one of the girls said. "It's just superstition." "I'll give you $1 if you stand on the grave," said the boy. "A grave doesn't scare me," said the girl. "I'll do it right now." The boy handed her his knife. "Stick this knife in one of the graves," he said. "Then we'll know that you were there." The graveyard was filled with shadows and was quiet as death. There is nothing to be scared of, the girl told herself, but she was scared anyways. She picked up a grave and stood on it. Then, quickly, she bent over and plunged the knife into the soil, and she started to leave. But she couldn't get away. Something was holding her back. She tried a second time to leave, but she couldn't move. She was filled with terror. "Something's got me!" she screamed, and she fell to the ground. When she didn't come back, the others went to look for her, and they found her body sprawled across the grave. Without realizing it, she had plunged the knife through her skirt and had pinned it to the ground. It was only the knife that held her, yet she died of fright. So, that's pretty lame. That one's not very scary. That's kind of sad, actually. Can we take a second to appreciate the thank you, Dean. Thank you. I do really like the atmosphere. I have candles here. I have a pumpkin, and I've got the little red backdrop for today. That one kind of felt like bullying a little. That absolutely was bullying. Okay. How does alligators sound? Let's read alligators, because alligators don't really seem scary to me. So let's see if they can make it scary. A young woman in a town married a man from another part of the country. He was a nice fellow, and they got along pretty well together. There was only one problem. Every night he'd go swimming in the river. Sometimes he would be gone all night long, and she would complain about how lonely she was. This couple had 2 young sons. As soon as the boys could walk, their father began to teach them how to swim. And when they got to be old enough, he took them swimming in the river at night. Often, they would stay there all night long, and the young woman would stay home, all by herself. After a while, she began to act strange in a way. At least, that is what her neighbors said. She told them that her husband was turning into an alligator, and that he was trying to even turn their boys into an alligator. And when it came to alligators, there just weren't any nearby, and everyone knew that. Early one morning, the young woman came running into the town from the direction of the river. She was soaking wet. She said an alligator and her 2 little alligators had pulled her in, and that they had tried to get her to eat a raw fish. They were her husband and her sons, she said, and they wanted her to live with them, but she had gotten away. Her doctor decided that she had lost her mind, and he had put her in the hospital for a while. After that, nobody saw her husband and the boys again. They just disappeared. Now and then, a fisherman would tell about seeing an alligator in the river at night. Usually, it was 1 big alligator and 2 small ones. But people said they were making it up. Everybody knows there aren't any alligators around here. Here's a picture of the alligator. That's the husband, I'm assuming. Very spooky. Thanks for giving everybody a shout out, Howdy. Are they? Yes, they were scalies. That's it. Her husband was a scaly and he was too embarrassed to tell her. The Wendigo. A wealthy man wanted to go hunting in a part of northern Canada where few people have ever hunted. He traveled to a trading post and tried to find a guide to take him, but no one would do it. It was too dangerous, they said. Finally, he found an Indian who needed money badly, and he agreed to take him. The Indian's man name was Defago. They made camp in the snow near a large frozen lake, and for 3 days they hunted, and they had nothing to show for it. The third night, a windstorm came up, and they lay in their tent listening to the wind howling and the trees whipping back and forth. To see the storm better, the hunter opened the tent flap, and what he saw startled him. There wasn't a breath of air, and the trees were standing perfectly still, yet he could hear the wind howling. And the more he listened, the more it sounded as if it was calling Defago's name. Defago, it called. Defago. I must be losing my mind, the hunter thought. But Defago had gotten out of his sleeping bag. He was huddled in the corner of the tent, and his head was buried in his arms. What is this all about? The hunter asked. It's nothing, Defago said, but the wind continued to call to him, and Defago became more and more tense and more restless. Defago, it called. Defago. Suddenly, he jumped to his feet and began to run from the tent, and the hunter grabbed him and wrestled him to the ground. You can't leave me out here, the hunter shouted. Then the wind called again, and Defago broke loose and ran into the darkness. The hunter could hear him screaming as he went. Again and again he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet, my burning feet of fire!" Then his voice faded away, and the wind died down. At daybreak, the hunter followed Defago's tracks in the snow, and they went through the woods, down towards the lake, then out onto the ice. But soon he noticed something strange. The steps Defago had taken got longer and longer, and they were so long that no human could have ever taken them. It was as if something had helped him hurry away. The hunter followed the tracks out to the middle of the lake, and there they disappeared. At first, he thought that Defago had fallen through the ice, and that there wasn't any hole. Then he thought that something had pulled him off the ice into the sky, but that made no sense. As he stood wondering what happened, the wind picked up again. Soon it was howling as it had the night before. Then he heard Defago's voice. It was coming from up above. And again he heard Defago screaming, "My fiery feet, my burning feet!" But there was nothing to be seen. Now the hunter wanted to leave that place as fast as he could. He went back to camp and packed. Then he left some food for Defago, and he started out. Weeks later, he reached civilization. The following year, he went back to hunt in the area again. He went to the same trading post to look for a guide. The people there could not explain what had happened to Defago that night, but they had not seen him since then. Maybe it was a Wendigo, one of them said, and he laughed. It's supposed to come with the wind. It drags you along at a great speed until your feet are burned away, and more of you at that. Then it carries you into the sky, and it just drops you. It's just a crazy story, but that's what some of the Indians say. A few days later, the hunter was at the trading post again, and an Indian came in and sat by the fire. He had a blanket wrapped around him, and he wore his hat so that you couldn't see his face. The hunter thought there was something familiar about him. He walked over and asked, "Are you Defago?" The Indian did not answer. "Do you know anything about him?" No answer. He began to wonder if something was wrong, if the man needed help, but he could not see his face. "Are you all right?" he asked. No answer. To get a look at him, he lifted the Indian's hat. Then he screamed, for there was nothing under the hat but a pile of ashes. Does that make sense? Also, that is not what a Wendigo is. A Wendigo is not something that swims, that gets you into the sky at all. That is not what a Wendigo is. I'm not quite sure what they thought a Wendigo was when writing that story. All right, let's go ahead and read Jade's spooky story here. I'm gonna actually copy this so chat doesn't move. Let's go ahead and read this. Oh gosh, my candle. I'm sorry if that was loud. Oh, heavens, that is that is a big file. Alright. There once was a house, and it was a very idle area, but no one saw it. But this one kid named Mary, she was a normal kid, or so we thought. She saw it every day when she went to school up until high school. She never told anybody due to her thinking that everyone saw it. She once pointed it out for the first time, and she said to her boyfriend John, "Want to hang out in the house?" John replied, "Which house?" She brought him to it. Ends up, she was different and saw things that no one else could. She walked up holding John's hand, and Mary saw a thing in the distance, even though she couldn't decipher what it was. But something strange has happened. A key went into her other hand, and she opened the door, and John could see the house afterwards. They go in not expecting anything. She starts walking around while John starts pulling on stuff, and he gets stuck. And to be continued. Good one, Jade. I like it. I like it. Let's see what else we've got in here. Alright, you guys might be familiar with this. This story is a very popular copy pasta, if you know what those are. This is one of my favorites, personally, from when I read this book as a child. Donald and Sarah went to the movies. Then they went for a ride in Donald's car. They parked on the hill at the edge of town, and from there they could see the lights up and down the valley. Donald turned on the radio and found some music, but an announcer broke in with a news bulletin. A murderer had escaped from the state prison. He was armed with a knife, and he was headed south on foot. His left hand was missing, and in its place, he wore a hook. "Let's roll up the windows and lock the doors," said Sarah. "That's a good idea," said Donald. "That prison isn't too far away," said Sarah. "Maybe we should go home." "But it's only 10 o'clock, said Donald. "I don't care what time it is. I want to go home." "Look, Sarah," said Donald. "He's not going to climb all the way up here. Why would he do that? Even if he did, all the doors are locked. How could he get in?" "Donald, he could take that hook and break through the window and open a door. I'm scared and I want to go home." Donald was annoyed. "Girls are always afraid of something," he said. As he started the car, Sarah thought she heard something, or someone, scratching at the door. "Did you hear that?" she asked as they roared away. "It sounded like somebody was trying to get in." "Oh, sure," said Donald. Soon they arrived at her house. "Would you like to come in and have some cocoa?" she asked. "No, I gotta go home." He went around to the other side of the car to let her out. Hanging on the door handle was a hook. That's one of my favorites. I really like that one. Now this is also another really commonly known urban legend. I actually believed this one to be true for a very, very long time. And this one probably scared me the most because it's something that everybody does, and I think has happened. If you can drive, this has probably happened to you. No speed. This is the only one I got. I was too scared to get the other ones. This is called high beams. The girl driving the old blue sedan was a senior at high school. She lived on a farm about 8 miles away and used the car to drive back and forth. She had driven into town that night to see a basketball game. Now she was on her way home. As she pulled away from the school, she noticed a red pickup truck. It was following her out of the parking lot. A few minutes later, the truck was still behind her. "I guess we're going in the same direction," she thought. She began to watch the truck in her mirror. When she changed her speed, the driver of the truck changed his speed, and when she passed a car, so did he. Then he turned on his high beams, flooding the car with light. He left them on for almost a minute. "He probably wants to pass me," she thought, but She was becoming uneasy. Usually she drove home over a back road. Not too many people went that way. But when she turned onto that road, so did the truck. I've got to get away from him, she thought, and she began to drive faster. Then he turned his high beams on again. After a minute, he turned them off. Then he turned them on again. And then off again. She drove even faster, and the truck's driver stayed right behind her. Then he turned his high beams on again. Once more, her car was ablaze with light. What is he doing? She wondered. What does he want? Then he turned them off again. But a minute later, he had them on again, and he left them on. At last, she pulled into her driveway, and the truck pulled in right behind her. She jumped from the car and ran into the house. "Call the police!" she screamed at her father. Out in the driveway, she could see the driver of the truck, and he had a gun in his hand. When the police arrived, they started to arrest him, and he pointed to the girl's car. "You don't want me," he said. "You want him." Crouched behind the driver's seat, there was a man with a knife. As the driver of the truck explained it, the man had slipped into the girl's car just before she left the school. He saw it happen, but there was no way he could stop it. He thought about getting the police, but he was afraid to leave her, so he followed the car. Each time the man in the back seat reached up and over to overpower her, the driver of the truck turned on his high beams, and then the man would drop down, afraid that someone might see him. And that, kids, is why after every single night shift I would work, I would look in my back seat because I was so scared. Because that story haunted me for years. I like that one too, Monkey. I think it's a really fun one. Some of the art in here is so scary. This chapter has the same title as the first chapter, but the stories in the first chapter are meant to scare you. The ones in this chapter are meant to make you laugh. I am not a fan of that. Sorry, Howdy. Here you go. Here's a funny one to help maybe get some of the spooks out. A widow lived alone on the top floor of an apartment. One morning, her telephone rang. "Hello?" she said. "This is the Viper," a man said. "I'm coming up." Someone is fooling around, she thought, and hung up. Half an hour later, the telephone rang again. It was the same man. "It's the Viper. I'll be up soon." The widow didn't know what to think, but she was getting frightened. Once more the telephone rang. Again, it was the Viper. "I'm coming up now," he said. She quickly called the police. They said they would be right over. When the doorbell rang, she sighed with relief. "Oh, they're here," she thought. But when she opened the door, there stood a little man with a bucket and a cloth. "I am the Viper. I'm here to wish and wash your windows." But The slithery D came out of the sea. He ate all the others, but he didn't eat me. The slithery D came out of the sea. He ate all the others, but he didn't eat... This is make slurping sound. That was basically the plot of a G.I. Joe episode from the 80s, really? Here's another funny one for you, Howdy. A businessman arrived at a hotel late one night and asked for a room. The room clerk told him the hotel was all filled up. "There's only one empty room," he said, "but we don't really rent that one out because it's haunted." "I'll take it," said the businessman. "I don't believe in ghosts." The man went up to the room. He unpacked his things and he went to bed. As soon as he did, a ghost came out of the closet. Its fingers were bleeding and it was moaning, "Bloody fingers, bloody fingers." When the man saw the ghost, he grabbed his things and ran. The next night, a woman arrived very late. Again, all the rooms were taken except for the haunted room. "I'll sleep there," she said. "I'm not afraid of ghosts." As soon as she got into bed, a ghost came out of the closet, and its fingers were still bleeding. It was still moaning, bloody fingers, and the woman took one look and ran. A week later, another guest arrived, very late. He also took the haunted room. After he unpacked, he got out his guitar and began to play. Soon the ghost appeared. As before, its fingers were bleeding, and it was moaning, bloody fingers, bloody fingers. Yet the man paid no attention. He just kept strumming his guitar, but the ghost kept moaning, and its fingers kept bleeding. Finally, the guitar player looked up and said, "Cool it, man. Get yourself a Band-Aid." Hello, Andrew. How are you? You remember the story from your childhood? I'm reading a whole bunch of them. If you guys remember any specific ones that you like from this. Yay, I'm happy your power is back on. That's great to hear, Andrew. That's wonderful. That might have been too much garlic. What do you mean, monkey? We have this one. This is The Big Toe. A boy was digging at the edge of the garden when he saw a big toe. He tried to pick it up, but it was stuck to something, so he gave it a good hard jerk, and it came off into his hand. Then he heard something groan and scamper away. The boy took the toe into the kitchen and showed it to his mother. "It looks nice and plump," she said. "I'll put it in the soup and we'll have it for dinner." That night, his father carved the toe into 3 pieces, and each got a piece. Then they did the dishes, and when it got dark, they all went to bed. The boy fell asleep almost at once, but in the middle of the night, the sound awakened him, and it was something out into the street. It was a voice, and it was calling to him. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard that, he got very scared, but he thought, "It doesn't know where I am. It will never find me." Then he heard the voice once more, only now it was closer. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. The boy pulled the blankets over his head and closed his eyes. "I'll go to sleep," he thought. "When I wake up, it'll be gone." But soon he heard the back door open, and again he heard the voice. "Where is my toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard footsteps move through the kitchen into the dining room, into the living room, into the front hall, then slowly they climbed the stairs. Oh no, the music. The music. Stop. No. Then the boy heard footsteps moving through the kitchen and into the dining room. Closer and closer they came. Soon they were in the upstairs hall. Now they were outside his door. "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. His door opened, shaking with fear. He listened as the footsteps slowly moved through the dark towards his bed. When they stopped, "Where is my toe?" the voice groaned. When the boy hears the... Did stream stop for a second? Oh, oh no, did it stop? Where did we leave off? Oh, Jade's? Nope, I'm here? Okay, I don't know, my internet started freaking out for a second too. Okay, good to know. So this says, after this, "At this point, pause, and then jump at the person on your left and shout, 'You've got it.'" But I'm not going to do that. So then the other ending is, when the boy hears the voice calling for his toe, he finds a strange-looking creature up inside the chimney. The boy is so frightened that he can't move. He just stands there and stares at it. Finally, he asks, "Whoa, you've got such big eyes for?" And the creature answers, "To look you through and through."
What do you have such big claws for? To scratch up your grave. What do you got such a big mouth for? To swallow you whole. What do you got such sharp teeth for? To chomp your bones.
As you give the last line, pounce on one of your friends. So a lot of this is just jump scaring your friends. You're fine, monkey, thanks. This one literally just says at the end to scream at the top of your lungs. And these are rude. All of these end with just trying to... All of these are just trying to scare. Like, just jump scare your friends. Refresh got an ad. Did you see my story? Oh, can you paste it again, Jade? IDK if this will sound weird, but this is somehow actually helping me focus in a way really well. I'm happy to hear that it's helping you focus, Annie. I enjoy doing it. This is fun. I really enjoy just like reading and like, especially sometimes even when I'm alone, I really enjoy reading aloud just because it helps me focus more on the words I'm saying. And I can kind of like say it how I feel the characters would say it. I really enjoy that, at least. There was a haunted house where every night a bloody head would fall down the chimney. At least, that's what people said. So nobody would stay there overnight. Then a rich man offered $200 to whoever could stay the night at the house. And this boy said he would try it if he could have his dog with him. So it was all settled. The very next night, the boy went to the house with his dog. To make it more cheerful, he started a fire in the fireplace. Then he sat in front of the fire and waited, and his dog waited with him. For a while, nothing happened. But a little after midnight, he heard someone singing softly and sadly off in the woods. The singing sounded something like this. Meet I doughty walker. It's just somebody singing, the boy told himself, but he was frightened. Then his dog answered the song. Softly and sadly, it sang, Leechy keechy coly moly dingo dingo. The boy could not believe his ears. His dog had never uttered a word before. Then a few minutes later he heard the singing again. Now it was closer and louder, but the words were the same. Meet I doughty walker. This time the boy tried to stop his dog from answering. He was afraid that whoever was singing would hear it and come after him. But his dog paid no attention, and again it sang, Leechy keechy coly moly dingo dingo. A half an hour later, the boy heard the singing once more. Now it was in the backyard, and the song was the same. Meet I doughty walker. Again, the boy tried to keep his dog quiet, but the dog sang louder than ever. Leechy keechy coly moly dingo dingo. Soon, the boy heard the singing again, but it was coming down the chimney. Meet I doughty walker. The dog sang right back. Leechy keechy coly moly dingo dingo. Suddenly, a bloody head fell out of the chimney, and it missed the fire and landed right next to the dog. The dog took one look and fell over, dead from fright. The head turned and stared at the boy. Slowly, it opened its mouth and... Turn to one of your friends and scream as loud as you can. These are such cheesy endings. Give me a real ending. Give me a real spooky ending, not just one that's supposed to make me scream at my friends. This is why I love audiobooks. I love listening to people read too. Aw. Alright, let's go ahead and finish. Let's read more of Jade's story. Also, if you're still here, Bro and Kenzie, I never thanked you for following. Thank you very much for that if you're still here. Alright. Whispers instead of yelling. Okay, I'll try to remember that. John screams for Mary and she hears him. She starts to look for him until she finds him in a ditch. In a ditch in the house. She started going down, but slips. She breaks her arm and finds John. She started to tell him how to make a splint for her arm, and he does it for her. She figures out his ankles are sprained. She tells him that she would be right back. And she found nothing. John offers to try to do something, and it works. And it still hurts, but not as bad. They rest for a little bit, then start walking the best they can. With John, they find a way out, but they still needed to find 3 things: a bone, a rock, and lastly, true love with each other. They found an old skeleton. They took a bone, a rock, from where they both fell down, and lastly, true love. They believe that they have everything they needed, and it turned out they weren't in true love with each other. They both started to deny it, and they stayed there for eternity. Ooh, spooky, Jade. Found a horror story for you. What is it, Earth Dragon? You're that streamer, Essie Lassie. You got me, Lolo. I'm that streamer, Essie Lassie, today. Oh gosh, space. Okay, you know what? If you're gonna be like that, I'll go, what do I have here? There you go. Sounds good, Earth Dragon. Since this is only going to be about an hour stream, we've got like 15 more minutes for a story. Also, hi Space, how are you? Alright, let's see. Earth Dragon wrote us a story. I'll go ahead and read this one. We bought an old house, my boyfriend and I. He's in charge of the new construction, converting the kitchen into a master bedroom, for instance, while I'm on wallpaper removal duty. The previous owner papered every wall and ceiling. Removing it is brutal, but oddly satisfying. The best feeling is getting a long peel, similar to your skin when you're peeling this from a sunburn. I don't know about you, but I kind of make a game of peeling, on the hunt for the longest piece before it rips. Under a corner section of every paper in every room is a person's name and a date. Curiosity got the best of me one night, and I googled one of the names and discovered the person was actually missing. The missing date matching the date under the wallpaper. The next day, I made a list of all the names and dates. Sure enough, each name was for a missing person with dates to match. We notified the police, who naturally sent out the crime scene team. I overheard one of the texts say, "Yep, it's human." Human? What's human? Ma'am, where's the material you removed from the walls already? This isn't wallpaper you're removing. Ooh, Earth Dragon. Good one. Spooky dooky. Have you ever read the poem, The Cremation of Sam McGee? I have not. Monkey. So it's appealing, but let's see. We got another one in here. Hello, Frosty. How are you? A farmer had a daughter for whom he cared more than anything on earth. She fell in love with a farmhand named Jim. But the farmer did not think Jim was good enough for his daughter. To keep them apart, he sent her to live with her uncle on the other side of the country. Soon after she left, Jim got sick, and he wasted away and died. Everyone said that he died of a broken heart. The farmer felt so guilty about Jim's death, he could not tell his daughter what had happened. She continued to think about Jim and the life they may have had together. One night, many weeks later, there was a knock on her uncle's door. When the girl opened the door, Jim was standing there. "Your father asked me to give this to you," he said. "I came on his best horse." "Is there anything wrong?" she asked. "I don't know," he said. She packed a few things, and they left. She rode behind him, clinging to his waist. Soon he complained of a headache. "It aches something terrible," he told her. She puts her hand on his forehead. "Why, you're as cold as clay," she said. "I hope you're not ill." And she wrapped her handkerchief around his head. They traveled so swiftly that in a few hours they reached the farm.
The girl quickly dismounted and knocked on the door, and her father was startled to see her. "Didn't you send for me?" she asked. "No, I didn't," he said. She turned to Jim, but he was gone, and so was the horse. They went to the stable to look for them. The horse was there. It was covered with sweat and trembling with fear, but there was no sign of Jim. Terrified, her father told her the truth about Jim's death. Then, quickly, he went to see Jim's parents. They decided to open his grave. The corpse was in its coffin, but around its head, they found a girl's handkerchief.
Wow, Jim was the ultimate simp just because favorite e-girl move. Okay, Dean. Have a little bit of sympathy. Just a little bit. Alright, let's see. We got time for another story or two. Okay. Ooh, what's this one? No, that one says we need to end with screaming, and I don't want to scream. Ooh, this one is about a cat. It's been going good, David. Thanks. I'm having a blast. Good one, Mango. All right. An old man was out for a walk. When the storm came up, he looked for a place to take shelter. Soon he came to an old house, and he ran up to the porch and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. By now the rain was pouring, and the thunder was booming, and the lightning was flashing, so he tried the door. When he found it was unlocked, he went inside. Except for a pile of wooden boxes, the house was empty. He broke up some of the boxes and made a fire with them. Then he sat down in front of the fire and dried himself. It was so warm and cozy that he fell asleep. When he woke up, a black cat was sitting near the fire. It stared at him for a while. Then it purred. "That's a nice cat," he thought, and he dozed off again. When he opened his eyes, there was a second cat in the room, but this was one as big as a wolf. It looked at him very closely, and it asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the other cat. "Let's wait till Martin comes." "I must be dreaming," thought the old man. He closed his eyes again, and then he took a look. But now there was a third cat in the room, and this one was as big as a tiger. It looked the old man over, and it said, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the others. "Let's wait till Martin comes." The old man jumped out of the window, and started running. "When Martin comes, you tell him I couldn't wait," he called. And that's the end of that story. Oh gosh, nothing like a bonk. Oh gosh, another bonk. Guys, I don't deserve these. There's nothing wrong with being the ultimate simp, right, Miss Essie Wessie? Gosh dang it. Dang, Lola's all about the bonk. Alright. It was 9 o'clock in the evening, and everybody was sitting on the couch in front of the TV. There was Richard, Brian, Jenny, and Doreen, the babysitter. The telephone rang. "Maybe it's your mother," said Doreen, and she picked up the phone. Before she could say a word, a man laughed hysterically, and then hung up. "Who was that?" asked Richard. "Some nut," said Doreen. "What did I miss?" At 9:30, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. It was the man who had called before. "I'll be there soon," he said, and he laughed and hung up. "Who was it?" the children asked. "Some crazy person," she said. About 10 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Jenny got to it first. "Hello?" she said. It was the same man. "1 more hour," he said. He laughed and hung up. "He said 1 more hour. What did that mean?" asked Jenny. "Don't worry," said Doreen. "It's somebody fooling around." "I'm scared," said Jenny. About 10:30, the telephone rang once more. When Doreen picked it up, the man said, "Pretty soon now," and then he laughed. "Why are you doing this?" Doreen screamed. And he hung up. "Who was that guy?" said Brian. It was that guy again, said Doreen. I'm going to call the operator and complain. The operator told her that if he called back, and it happened again, that she would try to trace the call. At 11 o'clock, the telephone rang once more. Doreen answered it. Very soon now, said the man, and he laughed and hung up. Doreen called the operator. Almost at once, she called back. That person is calling from a telephone upstairs, she said. You'd better leave. I'll go get the police. Just then, a door opened upstairs. A man they had never seen before started down the stairs towards them. As they ran away from the house, he was smiling in a very strange way. A few minutes later, the police found him there and arrested him. The calls are coming from inside the house. Yes, Mango, what is your question? Thanks, David. What be your question? I love how the cheery Mario sounds are not very spooky. Who even was that guy, am I right? There's this girl I like, and I'm pretty sure she's not used to compliments. Okay. Hi, Kazumi. I'm saving my points for a treat for the floof. I'll try to make sure to buy some this weekend. Hey, Ladybug. Hope she just left. And stuff like that. And she gets embarrassed because I do it in a call with the boys. Wait. I don't get it, Mango. I don't quite understand what you mean. Because I might get a sponsorship? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Mango. This sounds like you're starting to do ASMR. Don't worry. I'm not doing ASMR. I just like to read. I just want to read like this. Plus, ASMR mics are way too expensive, but I'll never be able to afford one. But, technically, audiobooks can be a form of ASMR. But howdy, it's Halloween. If you continue to read stories, I might have to leave stream, but that's okay, howdy. Actually, we don't have too much longer because I was only going to do an hour for today. That's okay. Hey, that's no problem, howdy. If you're not into it, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, there's a reading aloud tag. So, when I was doing, I think it was Wind Waker, I was using the reading aloud tag because I was reading aloud all the character lines. There's this girl I like, and I'm pretty sure she's not used to hearing me say, hello, do you think this little hat is kawaii? Ooh. I hate that you made me say that, Space. I hate that. These stories honestly seem like child's play. They are, they were literally scary stories meant for children, but if you don't enjoy spooky things or spooky things affect you more, then hey, I could totally see them getting to you, you know? I was watching an interview with Bella Delphine on the H Trip. Really? That seems really interesting. I want to talk to you about that, David. That's me. See? Exactly. Thanks for the host, Kazime. Oh, sorry, Kiz. It was Kiz, right? Or Kizzy? Yes, Kiz. Okay. Just Kiz. Okay. That's so much easier to say. It's just like cutting off 2 syllables. It's nothing too insane. Dark Gothic music of old ruins and ancient temples. I did not know that this was playing, but I'll take it. It was interesting. She seems like a smart person, but it was also a little bit sad for me. Okay, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. Kind of desensitized to horror right now since I've been a ghost very recently in Phasmophobia. Yeah, you can absolutely desensitize yourself. Horror movies and scary stuff used to terrify me, but I've definitely gotten desensitized to a lot of things. You think that interview was interesting? I have an interview with Fluttershy on my channel if anybody's interested. Dude, space, please link it. Okay, let's reread this, Frosty. So there's this girl I like, and she is not used to compliments, and I do it while she's in a call with me and my friends, so she gets embarrassed and doesn't like it. And recently I reached out to a company and might get a sponsorship, and she congratulated me, and I kind of ruined it by complimenting her, and I don't know what to do now. Well, if she's been vocal and said that she doesn't like being complimented in front of other people, you shouldn't compliment her. If she said she doesn't like it, sure, Frosty. DM me on Discord. Sure, go for it. Out of bonks, you know, just because Anthony's here, here's a bonk on the house for you, okay? There you go. You deserve it. Esther hates being complimented in any context, so I never do it. Uh-huh. I'm doing a Phasmophobia stream tomorrow, but I set a $10 dono jump scare sound effect. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that doesn't sound fun at all, kids. Wait, we weren't out of bonks and I gave you a bonk on the house? What? It's not fair at all. Esther hates being called Sheen, so I play it safe, but I don't call her anything. You just called me Esther in that exact sentence. It sounds like a good content. I also hate scare games, though. Well, best of luck that you don't get nightmares or anything from my kids. Why does it say you can't bonk? That's weird. Everything should be working except the treats right now, because I still don't have treats. Oh, cooldowns. Yeah. That'll do it. I think there's like a 60-second cooldown in between a bonk. Okay, and we get another. There we go. You guys are never gonna let Anthony do a bonk. Tried to play Until Dawn last year, and the QuickTime event screwed me up. Okay, I went to Bloopers. I like that. Until Dawn was a great game. I really enjoyed it. Mine literally says out of stock, though. That's weird. Can you refresh the page, Anthony? I would bonk, but I'm saving up for VIP. Makes sense. I think VIP is way more important than a bonk. Alright. 15. Oh, yeah. Halfway there. Halfway there, kids. What's VIP do? VIP gets you a exclusive badge in chat with the little VIP pink diamond badge. You'll be able to post links in chat and do song requests at any time, even if you are not a subscriber, and you can get access to the subscriber chat in my Discord, and it makes you awesome. Exactly, Chloe. Ooh, oh my gosh, Annie, dude,
honestly, you deserve M3.
Thank you for the 140 bits, Annie. Oh my gosh, that's incredibly kind. Thank you. I post a bunch of Esther's secrets in the Discord subscriber chat. It's totally worth it. Hey, there you go. David, does that mean I can post all of your secrets in yours, in the Kimballers? A little good. I was surprised you didn't ask when I mentioned that you were gone yesterday. I'm on mobile, reopen the app, and it's still busted. Rip. Yeah, post all your secrets? I will. I'll take that. I'll take that and run. Be careful what you say. I'm playing the David. Oh, David has secrets. David has secrets. He's not that much of an open book. I know a thing or two. I know a thing or two. But on that note, I think that's what we might call it. I know it's only been an hour, and I'm actually having a lot of fun talking to you guys. But I have things I need to get done before I have to be at a place. Imagine not letting Anthony bonk. It's not my fault. Yeah, David's actually a horse. That's his biggest secret. Leak his shoe size. Okay. Alright, let's see. I don't typically have people. Oh, look, it's like the exact same people. Oh, we could. Bald Bearded is on. You're a. I don't know, are you a 10? Are you a 10? I think you're a size 10 shoe. Pixel just went live. Ooh, let me refresh my page then. Oh, you're right, he did. Yeah, he literally just went live. Okay, we can go say hi to Pixel. He's playing Spelunky. You're an 11, dang it. I'm sorry I underestimated you. Alright, well, I know it was a short stream, but have a safe Halloween this weekend. I don't know if any of you guys are even doing anything, but have a safe Halloween. Stay spooky. Post pictures of your costumes in the Discord if you guys are dressing up. And do exactly what David did. Copy that cool cat message, because we're going to go to another family-friendly live streamer. And we're going to go say hi. Hi, Flan Cat. I know you just got here, but today's a short stream. But you can stick around for the raid and go hang out with Tony if you want. So on that note, let me go ahead and let's go ahead and go over to our end card and say hi to Tony for me. Bye.